Line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
In the vast history of radio, certain moments stand out not because of who was speaking, but because of what was said and the strange, almost surreal circumstances that surrounded it. One such moment occurred late one night when an anonymous caller made its way through into living rooms and cars across America. The call came from someone claiming to be a former employee of the US military's most secretive facility, Area 51. His voice trembled, his words came out in fragments, but the message he delivered was unlike anything the people who listened had ever heard before. What followed was a sequence of events so strange, so unusual, that it would go on to fuel decades of speculation and conspiracies. It was broadcast live on a show called Coast to Coast AM, one of the most popular late-night radio programs in America at that time. Hosted by Art Bell, Coast to Coast had millions of people tuning in every night. The show focused on the unexplained, UFOs, conspiracy theories, time travel, the paranormal things most mainstream media never touched. But Art Bell didn't laugh at these topics. He took them seriously, and he gave callers the space to share their stories, no matter how strange they sounded. That's part of why people loved the show. It felt like a place where the truth, or at least something close to it, might actually slip through. And that night, something definitely slipped through. Earlier that night, Art Bell asked his listeners if anyone had connections to, or had worked at Area 51, to call in and share what they knew. Let's listen to how the call started.
Line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
You could tell the caller was stressed and felt like he didn't have much time. Art tried to make sure the caller had reached the right show.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
He then asked the caller if he was an employee or if he still worked at Area 51.
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and...
At this point, Art realized the caller wasn't joking. He could hear the fear in the man's voice. This was someone who was genuinely terrified.
I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna...
The caller sounded stressed and terrified, as if he didn't have much time left.
They'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone, so give us something quick.
Okay,
He went on to say that we've misunderstood everything. What we call aliens aren't visitors from distant worlds at all. They're extra-dimensional beings, existing beside us, unseen and far beyond our understanding. The way he said it, with fear and conviction, made it sound less like theory and more like truth.
What we're thinking of as aliens, Art, they're extra-dimensional beings that...
Then it gets even stranger.
An earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim.
At this point, he starts talking about that these beings have even infiltrated the military.
To be, they have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military.
He also seemed to know that something terrible was about to happen, some kind of disaster.
Particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military... I'm sorry.
He also claimed that the government knows about these beings and that there are so-called safe zones where humans are supposed to be moved to places where they can be kept safe.
The government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world.
According to him, the presence of these beings wasn't a mystery at all. It was something that had already been discovered, studied, and even hidden from the public for years.
They could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not.
What made it worse was that the people weren't being moved to safety. Even though the government knew what was coming, they were keeping the safe areas to themselves and leaving everyone else behind.
So that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
The fear in his voice became harder to ignore, almost painful to listen to. He didn't just sound scared, he sounded like someone who had already given up. Then, gradually, the line started to fall silent. There was no sharp click, no sudden cut-off, just a slow drift into white noise, as if something or someone was trying to silence him. And then, without warning, the entire broadcast feed dropped. Coast to Coast suddenly went off the air, not just locally, but across the country. The station had completely lost connection with its listeners. After several minutes of silence, the station was finally able to reconnect. They switched over to a backup system, a secondary satellite link designed for emergencies. Once it was active, the broadcast returned, and Art Bell's voice came back on the air. He sounded shaken, but calm, as he explained that they had experienced a sudden and unexpected system failure. He said it was something that had never happened before.
In some way, something knocked us off the air, and we're on a backup system now.
It's the government or...
At the same time, a new caller had joined the line. This second listener had just tuned in and was waiting to speak, but instead, they had also been caught in the silence. Now, both the host and the new caller were live, confused, surprised, and just as stunned as the audience. They didn't know exactly what had happened, but they both felt that it was no ordinary technical glitch.
Well, did you hear... Now, you tell me because you were listening.
That was awful strange.
There was a really weird guy on the air when it went off?
Yeah, real weirded out.
As the show continued, Art Bell and the new caller began to talk about what had just happened. The caller said he had heard the strange conversation just before everything went silent.
Sort of sounding paranoid,
Yeah.
schizophrenic.
Like crying and everything.
Yeah. And how far into the conversation was it when it went off?
Curious to know how much of the call had actually made it on air, Art Bell asked the new caller how much of the conversation he had heard.
Just a couple, about 15, 20 seconds, I'd say.
Oh, you
Something like
guys you really missed the call then, and I've got a feeling somebody didn't want you to hear it.
Art Bell paused for a moment. Then he said that if the caller had only heard the last 15 to 20 seconds, then most of the conversation must have been lost when the broadcast went down. He didn't make any wild claims, but he did say something that made people think. It almost feels like someone didn't want this to be heard.
Because it was really strange. All of a sudden, I'm hearing Mark Furman, and
That's right. Well, the network, of course, went immediately to a backup tape.
What you just heard has been replayed, analyzed, and debated for over 2 decades. Some think it was a hoax, others believe it was real. But no matter what you believe, the call left people with a lot of questions. And the silence that followed made everything feel even more strange. Even now, years later, the call is still a mystery. Why did the radio signal drop at that exact moment? Why did the caller sound so afraid? Not like he was pretending, but like he truly believed what he was saying. And why has no one ever proven it was fake? Some people think he was telling the truth and that he crossed a line. That someone, somewhere, heard the call and made sure it didn't go any further. A warning, maybe, to others who know too much. What if he was right? What if there really are things being hidden about advanced beings, secret locations, or plans the public isn't meant to know? We may never find out who that caller really was, but what he said and how quickly it all went silent still raises questions to this day. Not just about the phone call, but about what else might be hidden just out of reach. So ask yourself, if just one voice on the radio can be shut down that fast, what else have we never been allowed to hear?